Betty, what's your view on this decision today by policymakers to keep these rates unchanged? Obviously trying to engineer a soft landing here. Some saying there are signs of stabilization in the data. Do you think China's found a bottom?
Yes, I think in terms of the LPR decision this morning, so that was widely expected as unchanged. But in terms of economic momentum, we are seeing some early signs of some sort of stabilization, and that's why we have recently revised up our 2023 GDP growth forecast to 5.1% from 4.9%. Of course, it's still at early stage to say whether the economy will secure a full recovery towards the end of this year. But from our point of view, there are some early signs already. So that's why we have revised up our 2023 GDP forecast to 5.1%.
And in terms of what we're seeing in the property sector, Betty, do you think that some of the challenges there threaten to undermine the positive signs we're getting in terms of the recovery signals so far?
Yes, so I think there are two sort of perspectives that we could look at China's property sector. So in the very near term, having said that, the recent policy easings nationwide, especially from demand side easings, have exceeded our previous expectations. So on that front, we do think that it could spur some genuine demand, at least in the upcoming traditional sales seasons in late September, early October. So that should help to restore part of the market sentiment. But from the longer term perspective, it doesn't mean that, the structural issues existing in China's property sector has been addressed yet. Specifically, if you look at China's property sector reforms this time, it was pretty much a policy-driven intention, which in our view, that policymakers want to reshuffle the sector before they embark a new sort of era in this sector. So we do think that over the longer term perspective, the government would like to drive a public housing supply into the market, which will potentially reshape the sector's supply-demand mechanism. So this is something playing out in the longer term, and that will also limit the recovery momentum over the longer term.